The Mirror 5 is OPPO's latest mid-range smartphone, featuring a facet design and premium build. But does the Mirror 5 really stand out among the sea of cheap Android smartphones? This is Bailey Stein with Android Authority, and this is my full review of the OPPO Mirror 5. If there's one area where the Mirror 5 shines, it's got to be design. Quite literally, actually. With individual cut glass sections on the back cover, the Mirror 5 offers an increasingly popular reflective design. In fact, you'd be forgiven for mistaking the Mirror 5 for the older R1X. Weighing in at an average 160 grams and with a thickness of 7.65 millimeters, the Mirror 5 feels comfortable in the hand. The bimetallic frame is a nice touch, and combined with a smaller form factor, makes the phone easy to grip with a single hand. The power and volume buttons provide good tactile feedback and are positioned nicely along the sides of the phone. One drawback to the faux glass rear cover is its tendency to collect fingerprints. The same is true for the front of the device, which makes it very difficult to keep the Mirror 5 free of fingerprints. There is a notification LED at the top right, as well as a 5-megapixel front-facing camera on the top left. The three capacitive keys on the bottom, menu, home, and back, are sadly not illuminated. I wish OPPO would have given us the option to use the menu button as the multitasking button, like Xiaomi does, as the current implementation is to press and hold to access the multitasking menu, which does seem to be a bit much. The Mirror 5's 5-inch QHD display looks about average, but could definitely use a bump in resolution. It's funny to think that the 960 by 540 resolution is just a quarter of rivals like the Asus Zenfone 2. Everything looks a bit blurry, and while the low resolution may help the phone achieve longer battery life, it does cause the display to take a major hit in quality overall. There's also no display protection like Gorilla Glass, so it would be wise to keep the factory installed screen protector on even after unboxing the phone. Featuring the quad-core 64-bit Snapdragon 410 clocked at 1.2 GHz, the Mirror 5 is packing a relatively low-end processor. While I did notice apps taking a few more seconds to load, day-to-day performance was surprisingly good for the processing package. Luckily, OPPO did include 2 GB of RAM, so you likely won't have to worry about not having enough, unlike on some other devices. Coupled with the Adreno 306, the Mirror 5 is able to play most games without any issues. Thanks to the lower screen resolution, frame drops are rare even in games like Need for Speed Most Wanted. The OPPO Mirror 5 supports 802.11n Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth 4.0. Carrier support will vary based on the model, but the American version partially supports HSPA Plus on AT&T and 2G on T-Mobile. There are also 4G LTE bands, however, with 1, 4, 7, and 17 being supported on the American version. It is missing band 2 and 5 for AT&T and 2 and 12 for T-Mobile, which may cause problems for certain users in certain areas. The rear speaker sounds pretty good with little distortion. The placement is a bit unfortunate, however, as it makes it really easy to block when set on a flat surface. Battery life on the Mirror 5 was good, but not great. The 2420 mAh non-user replaceable battery was able to get me from 9 AM to 9:30 PM with just over 3 hours of screen on time. That was with brightness set to 75% and Wi-Fi on for the entire day. If you are a power user, chances are better than not that this phone won't be able to make it through a full day of use. Light users, on the other hand, should have no trouble with battery life. There is a normal power saving mode as well as a super power saving mode if you really need to just get a bit more out of the battery. The 8-megapixel rear camera produced mostly good looking images, especially for the price. As is the case with most smartphone cameras, it performs best in well lit environments. I do appreciate the slider next to the focus point within the camera app that lets you adjust the exposure quickly if needed. Speaking of the camera app, it's undoubtedly taking some inspiration from Apple. There are many shooting modes, however, although there aren't many manual settings available. The OPPO Mirror 5 ships with ColorOS version 2.1 over Android 5.1.1 Lollipop. ColorOS replaces a lot of stock Android elements, including the settings, multitasking menu, launcher, and lock screen. That's not to say that ColorOS is bad, however. The animations are all very nice, and the launcher offers some of the best customization options despite not having an app drawer. Maybe it's a problem on my end, but I noticed that the multitasking menu would occasionally refuse to close certain apps. I have to keep swiping until ColorOS realizes that I want to close the app, and this can just be very frustrating. I've had this issue before on other skins using an iOS-style app switcher, and I think that it could use some improvement in ColorOS. Perhaps the best aspect of ColorOS is the gestures that are offered out of the box. Not only do you have your standard double tap to wake, draw letters for apps, but you also have screen-on gestures like pinch to open camera, swipe 3 fingers to take a screenshot, or adjust the volume with 2 fingers. There's also a one-handed mode, but I found the gesture to activate it to be a bit jarring at times. The small things like the near lack of bloatware and the ability to swipe down from anywhere while in the launcher certainly add up to make a very good software experience overall. The OPPO Mirror 5 will be available for about $245, depending on your region. It's available in either white or blue with 16GB of internal storage. You can expand that with a microSD card up to 128GB. Since the microSD card slot is separate from the dual SIM card slots, you also won't need to give up one of those if you want extra storage. The Mirror 5 has several strong points: a nice design, good speaker quality, and a good software experience. However, the display resolution is very low, the performance is slightly below average for what you can get in other options, and I do feel that it is a tad overpriced. With other Chinese smartphones like the Meizu M2 Note and Lenovo K3 Note, the OPPO Mirror 5 is a tough sell. While it does offer a superior design and build, it falls behind in display resolution, performance, and most importantly, price. Thank you for watching this video, and please make sure to give it a thumbs up below if you enjoyed it. Also, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content, and feel free to leave a comment below. Finally, be sure to visit the Android Authority website for additional coverage, as we are your source for all things Android.